Hello, welcome back to Hunter Tune. Today we have a Honda Civic on the dyno. This is a circle track race car, and it has a K20. So this car has a K20 A2. It's on Honda K Pro, and we're gonna get it dialed in today. He purchased a lot of stuff from my buddy Jason Waters. He got some FIC injectors in it, or FID, fuel injector development. I believe they're like a 450 or 550 cc injector. It's got an intake. I don't really know what's all done to the motor, but it is built up a little bit. And yeah, we're gonna see if we can't get this thing running. I got a wideband installed and we got the thing strapped down onto the dyno. So this is officially the first dyno tune on the dyno at the new shop. So I did also get some plate for the trench here. So we're gonna get this thing all set up. I'm gonna get my laptop plugged into it. I have a wideband in the car already, and yeah, we're gonna see if we can't dial this thing in. I'm assuming we're gonna have to go into the tune and we're gonna have to change the injector size and the injector data. So once we do that, I hope it runs a lot better, because currently it definitely runs quite rich. All right guys, so I'm in this race car. A little tight getting through the window here. These cars, the doors and stuff are all welded solid, and man, they have a lot of roll cage in them. Let me tell you, I feel like drag race cars should have this much cage for how fast some drag cars go. But yeah, anyways, the ECU is down on the floor here. I just plugged in my cable, and I got the laptop hooked up. It has a kill switch here, and then ignition power is right here. And I went to pull the file off of it because I was just going to, you know, read it and adjust it. But this calibration is read protected. So Jason Waters got this thing on lock. Jason Waters, I think, did the harness, the injectors, and the ECU for this guy. So we're going to have to start fresh, and we're going to put in some injector data. Like I said, I'm assuming these are like 550s or something. But first, I think I want to just make sure this thing doesn't have any check engine lights and stuff. We're going to fire it up. So, right off the bat, we have a couple error codes. Like I said, there was a crank sensor code and then some other stuff. So, hopefully, we'll flash a new file in. I'll disable the idle air control and the IAT for now. And hopefully that crank sensor one isn't going to give us problems. I'm really hoping. So, I'm going to get a file, put in this thing real quick, and see if we can't get it running a little better. You can hear it, it was just kind of dog down rich. So let's see if we can't get it running a little bit better. All right guys, so I got this thing up and running, and it doesn't have a map sensor signal. You rev it, the map sensor is not moving at all. I'm gonna check TPS real quick. Okay, so we have a TPS, but we don't have a map sensor. And we have a lot of codes still. Crank sensor. There's a crank sensor code. This multiplexer, which I just shut off, so hopefully that one doesn't come back. But that explains why it's kind of running a little stumbly, because it doesn't have a map sensor signal. So I'm gonna key it back on. Just one more time quick, because I want to check the codes again with the engine off. Still 5 codes. What the heck? Alright, well, we're going to try to work through the tune here and see if we can't get these figured out. Vacuum. Alright guys, so no matter how prepared your car is, it's always got problems. So the car currently has a crank sensor code and an intake air code. I got the other codes to go away. I was not on Wi-Fi with my computer, so the Honda was tripping out when I was trying to log and upload changes. The vehicle speed sensor wasn't plugged in, so we just plugged that one in. Down here, this guy, vehicle speed. We have a TDC sensor here and a crank position. Oh, that fucker's loose. Look at this.
Oh, nice.
That might be part of it.
Is it 10?
Both of these are loose. Oh, great. Hopefully nothing else in the motor is loose. Right? They tighten the rod bolts? All right, let's see here. This one is plugged in. We're gonna tighten these guys up. If you do flip-flop these on accident, the car will backfire and stuff. And I don't know, I'll have to verify what one goes where. I can't remember off the top of my head. Might be easier with a socket.
I don't know, but this motherfucker's right in the goddamn. Sorry, I got yelled at for swearing last time.
That's okay. You're coming around. You're growing up.
Right.
Also, the car does not have a map sensor signal, so it runs like it's loaded up because it pretty much thinks the car is wide open throttle, just idling, and it's not actually moving. It's just staying in one column on the tune when I'm logging it. So we gotta figure that out. Okay, so we have these tightened up now, and we're checking out the actual crank sensor down here, and Trevor says it looks like it's plugged in, huh?
Yeah, it's unplugged right now.
Check the pins inside the connection and make sure they're not.
It doesn't want to lock. There, it's locked now.
Was it not all the way on?
I don't know. I kind of pushed it and then like pulled it off, went to go push it back on, and it didn't want to lock. So I wonder if it
wasn't pushed all the way on. Well, pull it back off and look inside the connector.
Yeah, that all looks good.
The pins aren't like pushed into the connector or anything?
No.
Okay. You can plug it back in then. Make sure it goes all the way on.
Yep, that was a click.
Okay. And this ground on the fuel rail, maybe we could just put it on the valve cover or something for now. You know what I mean? And the intake air temp, and we gotta figure out the fucking map sensor.
We need a map.
But map shouldn't be too big of a deal, I don't think. But I gotta see if I have a map sensor here. All right, so we took the crank sensor out of it down by the pulley over there. It looks like an OEM sensor, or it appears to be at least.
It's probably Eklund.
And then we checked wiring here. We have a 5 volt, a 12 volt, and a ground. We verified the ground and everything, so the wiring seems fine. And we did the same with the map sensor. That all checks out. But on my Integra, the CPS is on the front, and the TDC is on the back sensor. So this was flip-flopped. So we flip-flopped them, and now we're gonna see if that code goes away for the crank sensor code by flipping these. And it did backfire on me a couple times. I think the only reason it's not backfiring more is because it's so rich. It's got so much fuel it can't backfire. It's just drowning itself. But once it's running, it's fine, and it has RPM signal, which kind of rules out the sensor that's up by the crank pulley there. Are you looking it up? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just going off the harness for my Integra, which is a Jack Spania harness. This is a rye wire. Yes, McChicken with cheese, add mac sauce. Yes, you might as well just get both of them the same way so it's easier.
Actually, I'd take 2 of those if you could.
Okay, so we want 3 McChickens with mac sauce and cheese. 1 McDouble. And that's it. Yes. You want a drink?
A large Coke would be nice.
You want the large Coke. So 2 large. No. Okay, hold your bite.
Please don't take this out of the video.
Sorry, we just have been working so hard on this car. We worked up an appetite for McChickens.
Yeah, so anyways, these 2 were flip-flopped. TDC.
We actually did look it up, and I went to my Integra and verified.
Yeah.
TDC goes on the exhaust side, and the cylinder position goes on the front.
What's screwy is TDC.
So this is the cam sensor technically.
Right.
Because this will... I'm trying to determine if this one does like injectors or something, and this one does like where the... I don't know.
Right.
I know top dead center is for knowing where number one cylinder is in relation to the bore, like if it's at top or bottom, and this one determines what cylinder is where.
Right. But like I said, TDC was longer.
Yeah, so I can understand how this would get screwed up, because the top dead center sensor is longer. If we unplug these, look at that. The top dead center is longer, which you would think longer would go farther forward.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. It goes in the back. And they were loose. So we tightened them up.
Right.
And plugged them in right. So hopefully it's better. It still doesn't have a map sensor signal.
Right, which we're gonna have to figure that out.
We gotta find one. I don't have a map sensor here, unfortunately.
But we're gonna try it and see if that flip-flop caused the crankshaft position sensor
Because you put that back in now.
Right. Because it was throwing that
So we'll
code.
see if that code goes.
Right, right.
By the way, guys, you kind of have to fix this, because otherwise if it has any sort of crank code or top dead code or anything like that, it's going to not have VTEC, and it's going to screw up timing and fueling and everything.
Right, you need to have that VTEC Pro.
Right.
Hey, someone commented on the video that I'm supposed to keep my burping in the video.
For real?
Yeah.
Somebody also commented and said, must be nice to be a trust fund baby.
I wish.
Yep, that's what I said. If you plug the crank back in, sure.
Mm-hmm. Hold on.
Is it recording?
Yes.
Yes.
just did a fucking 50 horsepower jump.
What?
50 horsepower jump.
Yes.
T6.
Did it start to scream up top?
The fucking jets.
All right, guys, so we're still working on this little K20 circle track car, and we replaced the crank sensor because it was giving us a crank code. So we put a new Napa crank sensor in it, and the crank sensor code went away. The car starts up good now, everything like that. We still didn't have a map sensor signal. So Trevor actually went and got a new map sensor for it from O'Reilly's, and we put it in, and it still didn't have fucking map sensor signal. So we pulled it out, we did a little bit of inspecting, and this is the map sensor hole right here. And if I can find a light, down in the map sensor hole, there's actually a plug. It might be hard to tell on video, but it's plugged. So with the car running, this does not have any vacuum coming out of it. So the map sensor obviously needs to see intake manifold vacuum, and it's not. So this hole is useless. It probably needs to be drilled out and make sure that it's in the right spot or whatever. But what we did for the time being is we just put a vacuum line to the map sensor itself, and we found a hole up here that was not plugged that is vacuum. So we eliminated a vacuum leak and got the map sensor working. 2 birds with 1 stone. So
It's ghetto, but it works.
it's ghetto, but it works. Also, the car was giving me problems. I'm not like an expert, guys. I don't claim to be, but I definitely try to work through stuff and figure it out. The car, initially, we were doing some dyno pulls, and it wasn't really making any horsepower, especially for a K20. I really kind of expected this thing to be ripping. Jason Waters has been helping me a little bit through this process. But initially, we were making about 105 horse, 102, 105, 122, 126. And the curve just looked like shit. I'll be straight up honest with you. So this is the power curve we were working with initially. It came up, it stood up pretty good. As soon as it hit VTEC, it just fucking fell right off. And I'm like, man, what the heck's going on? So I looked at the data log, and the data log said 0 degrees cam angle. It was stuck at 0. So this thing really wouldn't have done anything until like 9,000 RPM, and then it would have taken off. So you need to put some cam angle into it to get it to stand up earlier to make power down low, and it was stuck at 0. It also had an intake air temp code. K-series cars need the intake air temperature sensor plugged in order for the cam angle to work. I didn't know that. All the cars that have come in already had intake air temps on them, and they worked. So a little bit of tidbit information for you guys. Make sure you have your intake air temp at least plugged in, which is what I did. This car did not have an intake air temp sensor on it at all, and I grabbed the one off my Integra and I just plugged it in and let it hang out. So after I did that, working cam angle. So I put like 30 degrees of cam angle. Right at the VTEC point, I had like 40 in it. I didn't want to go too crazy. And I did hear it rattle ever so slightly. Like a slight bit of piston to valve contact. I hope it's okay. It sounds fine still, and it sounds like it's got good compression and everything. But later, as I'm trying to tune this thing, I pulled a bunch of cam angle out of it because I saw 30 and 40 wasn't really making any power. It was falling off. So I'm going to show you the most recent curve that we did with the car. So you can see I have VTEC right around 4,500, and it just frickin' nosedives at 4,500. Typically a K-series car, stock K-series, will want VTEC at like 4 to 4,500, and it'll make a really nice power curve. This thing, 4,500, just falls off. And then it kind of picks back up, and then it just kind of peters off as it goes up. So I have what I think is typical on K-series cam stuff, like 30, blending into 20, and then way up top, less than 20. So that's kind of what I was doing, just as like a basic startup file. Usually, when cars come in that need tuning, they have too little of cam angle in it, and then I put angle in it and they make more power. This thing, on the other hand, has a set of drag cartel 3.2 cams in it. I was not told this. I did not know this, but I called the owner afterwards and I asked him, like, hey, what's up with the motor? Like, did you do something to it? And he's like, yeah, it's got drag cartel 3.2 cams and all this stuff. When he dropped it off today, he was on the phone and he was busy, so like I didn't want to bug him. And we worked through a lot of bugs to get it to this point. I just figured I'd throw a basic cam angle setup in it, and it ended up rattling a little bit. Like I said, it sounds fine still. I don't think anything's hurt, but It just sucks because with the bigger cams and stuff like that, you definitely can't go as high with the cam angle as you can with like a set of stock cams. Just because the lift is so much more, the valve opens that much farther on a set of aftermarket cams. So tuning it, 25 degrees of cam angle, 20 degrees of cam angle, it just looks like shit. The power curve just doesn't really want to paint a good picture. So I'm thinking this thing wants even less angle, and it wants VTEC even higher, VTEC probably 5500, and that way it'll get rid of that big old dip, and hopefully we can smoothen out this fall on torque tomorrow. So I'm working through it, and I'm gonna pull probably 10 degrees of cam angle out of it compared to what I have now and see how it responds. And raise the VTEC point up and go from there. So yeah, a little frustrating. The shifter is all screwed up. It's grinding into gears. He just put these cables on because he had issues with the stock ones, I guess. So he put hybrid racing ones on, but like they're loose and they're not really adjusted. So yeah, I'm just trying to get the thing running right for him. And yeah, maybe we'll pick up tomorrow and try to make some more power with it. I feel like with a set of cams, this thing should make a lot of power, but it might want a lot of RPM. And he doesn't want to go over 9,000 RPM. So I told him flat out, you probably should have went with a different cam or just run stock cams, because the stock cams will make power to 9,000 realistically. So I mean, I don't know how these aftermarket cams work, but usually I tell a lot of guys with the older B series stuff, and especially a set of camshafts really isn't going to benefit you unless you're going all out, like all out. For most setups, especially like with this intake manifold on it, it's not really matched to these cams, in my opinion. This thing's gonna want a bigger, shorter runner and stuff like that to really optimize these camshafts. It still has break-in oil in it. I'm nervous about that. I might ask him if he wants us to change the oil because, like I said, these cams are probably gonna want 9,500, I would think. And it still has the initial oil in it that seems really thin. I don't wanna fucking smoke this motor. There's a reason I can count on one hand the amount of motors I've blown up tuning them, because I take these precautions and I look at stuff when I'm tuning it, and I kind of, you know, try to figure stuff out from there. But yeah, pick up with you guys tomorrow on this thing. All right, I'm going to make noise one more time. One more? Sorry.
Things were just like my body was vibrating, and all of a sudden I saw this chemtrail coming off of your fucking car because it's vibrating the air so fucking much from decibel.
But the dyno is working.
Yes.
All right, just a little quick recap of this car. Sorry, the footage was kind of scattered because I worked on it over a few different days, and I got sick in the middle of working on this car. I'm still a little sick. So I just wanted to recap what was going on. The cam angle wasn't working. The cam angle wasn't right for the cams. So I got all that stuff finally set up, and then the car made great power. After I retuned it again because the wideband was reading lean, I ended up killing a wideband sensor, and the car was only making like 200 and a little over 200 horsepower. And I'm like, man, this thing should be making more power than this. What's going on? The wideband sensor went out. This car was on 110 leaded gas. And the leaded fuel really kills O2 sensors pretty quick. So I swapped out O2 sensors, added fuel, and this thing picked up like another 40 wheel. The final numbers on this setup specifically, I'm sorry I didn't get a whole lot of dyno footage. There was just a lot of fixing shit in this, but we did eventually get the car finally tuned, everything good, and it made like 251 or 249. Right around 250 horsepower on a 2-liter K20. Not too bad. It has 11.5 to 1 pistons in it, and those Drag Cartel 3.2 cams. With a better intake manifold and maybe a little bit more tweaking and tuning that I did not have time to do because the guy needed the car back. Probably could have made more than that. But it should be a handful for this little race car, and I hope you guys enjoyed some of the babbling and some of the talking and some of the fixing. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and we'll see you in the next video. Have a great night and a better tomorrow. God bless, and yeah, thank you so much for watching.